at usbr.gov/bill, BIL. So thank you for taking the appropriate action if you do not want to be included in this recorded information session. All remarks are on the record and for attribution. With the signing of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law by President Biden, Reclamation takes on a new opportunity to invest in our infrastructure and benefit the American public for the next generation. Since our last update in January, the Bureau of Reclamation has been hyper-focused on deliberately implementing the law. This information session is designed to update you on our progress and address your questions. We'll provide updates today about authorization of appropriations, critical maintenance and aging infrastructure, and the status of funding opportunities. We plan on addressing as many questions as possible during the Q&A period. Updated information about Reclamation's implementation of the law is always available at usbr.gov/bill, BIL. And you may also email your questions or comments to usbr.bill@usbr.gov, and we'll work to address your questions. We also have a growing list of frequently asked questions, and we hope that that is a helpful resource for you. We remain committed to transparency throughout this process and appreciate your support of this historic opportunity to improve our nation's water infrastructure. It is now my honor to welcome Acting Commissioner David Palumbo for opening remarks. Acting Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Rob. Happy Earth Day to everybody. Wanted to extend the regards of Commissioner Tootin. She is very much looking forward to future engagements with y'all, and we're looking forward to having her back working side by side with all of us. Across the West, communities are facing historic drought. It has been daunting, but Reclamation and the department are fortunately in a position to respond with financial resources, operational flexibilities, and technical assistance, and very fortunate to have strong partnerships with you all, water users, power contractors, tribes, NGOs. Basin by basin, Reclamation is engaged in actions to mitigate for the impacts of persistent and severe dry hydrology, to promote water security, drought resilience, and climate change adaptation. We scheduled this meeting today to update you on how we intend to continue these efforts and leverage regular appropriations, including those in the President's fiscal year 2023 budget request, with the resources in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law to build a more resilient Western landscape. This is a continuation of the BIL dialogue begun in December of 2021 and continuing through this spring. The infrastructure law provides a total of $8.3 billion under Title IX Western Water Infrastructure to the Bureau of Reclamation. This funding will supplement and complement funding requested in the FY 2023 budget for Reclamation's programs. We have set about plugging in BIL monies to the programs and projects Congress enumerated in the statute. Moreover, Reclamation is committed to collaborative efforts to ensure BIL investments reflect the administration's priorities. These include investing public dollars efficiently, working to avoid waste, and focusing on measurable outcomes for the American people. Priorities also include investing public dollars equitably, improving job opportunities, and delivering outcomes for the American people. We have posted a public-facing Bipartisan Infrastructure Law website describing the implementation approach. We've included our initial 2022 BIL spend plan on the site to provide as much detail as possible, as well as links to the many BIL-related funding opportunities that we're rolling out this year. The spend plan, which we submitted to Congress on January 14th and have supplemented it since, is for fiscal year 2022 funding allocations authorized under the law. It represents a blueprint how Reclamation will invest the $1.66 billion annual allocation. Reclamation also posted its FY 2023 BIL spend plan on March 29th, It enumerates how the second $1.66 billion of appropriation is to be allocated across the various programs. As described by Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, Tanya Trujillo, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law is the largest investment in resilience of physical and natural systems in American history. Reclamation is both proud and honored to play a fundamental role in executing this extraordinary opportunity to improve our infrastructure while promoting job creation, equity, and environmental justice. We hope that today's update briefing builds upon the information we've communicated previously and gives you a solid understanding of what we're doing, why we're doing it, when it's happening, and how our stakeholder community is involved. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Our BIL program staff will walk you through a presentation and then answer questions. Thanks again for letting me kick things off, and back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Acting Commissioner Palumbo. We will now receive an update on our FY23 budget, and it's my privilege to introduce Reclamation's Director of Program and Budget, Mr. Bob Wolf.
Thanks, Rob, and appreciate the opportunity to do a high-level overview of Reclamation's 2023 budget today. And these slides will be posted. So the first slide is simply a mission statement for Reclamation. And we'll move on to the next slide, which has an account level overview of the budget request for fiscal year 2023. So on the right column, you'll see the water-related resources request in the President's budget is close to $1.3 billion. So that's a very healthy and great request for us. And of course, the 2023 budget forms the foundation, a strong foundation for Reclamation on which to enhance the effort to have this generational change with the Budget Infrastructure Law, which they'll cover in detail later. The Policy Administration account at $65 million covers Commissioner's Office salaries, policy development, and related activities, and it provides an opportunity for non-reimbursable funds that do not get charged to our customers. So it's a great opportunity to make sure we're able to do high-level policy making and commissioners' activities without charging the customers for that part of our budget. And then there's two special accounts in California, the California Bay Delta Restoration Fund and the Central Valley Project Restoration Fund. Both specific, again, to California based on specific authorization setting up those accounts in those programs. And then the CVP Restoration Fund is fully offset by collections from water and power customers that offsets our appropriation. Two things I will point out with respect to the 2022 enacted number here. One is that first column, when the budget documents went to print, that is the administration's documents, the Department of Interior budget documents, and Reclamation budget documents. In all three cases, they used a 2022 annualized continuing resolution number, which was based off 2021 enacted. So that was just a placeholder. Subsequent to going to print, of course, we had final action and enactment of the 2022 appropriation bill. So this second column does not appear in any of the documents, and just want to bring your attention to the actual numbers here. When you compare the 2022 enacted and 23 President's budget, you'll see decreases in the water and related resources account. I want to explain there are two major factors there. One of them is we had a $210 million emergency supplemental appropriation in the first continuing resolution on October 1st. So $10 million of that was to cover fire expenses and $200 million was emergency drought response. So we're making great use of that money in 2022 to address the most significant things going on with the drought that we can help resolve with financing. But that 2022 money does not carry over into the 2023 President's request. So that's one major factor. A second major factor is that Indian water rights settlements are now being covered out of a separate Budget Infrastructure Law account, the Indian Water Rights Settlement Completion Fund. That's actually a Bureau of Indian Affairs account but it provides $2.5 billion in mandatory funds that are available to the Secretary to fund settlement requirements for both BIA and the Bureau of Reclamation. And that's for settlements that were enacted by November 15th when the Budget Infrastructure Law was signed. So that's a major change from the 2022 to 2023. The next slide just provides the key priority factors that we used in developing the 2023 budget. So infrastructure is obviously a major thing for reclamation, since most of our facilities were built more than 50 or 60 years ago. And that includes dam safety. And for dam safety in particular, our 2022 budget had roughly a doubling of the dam safety program, $100 million increase, which was in the final appropriation for 2022 and is also included in our 2023 request. So recognition of the great significance of the dam safety program, and we've got about 20 dams that we expect to be doing modifications to over the next decade. So it was really important to get that higher level of funding. Also, creating resilience through responding to drought and climate was a key consideration in putting together our budget. Supporting underserved communities and tribal programs, another key consideration area. Conserving natural resources and environmental responsibilities and obligations. So NEPA stuff, but more importantly, biological opinions and mitigating impacts of our projects are key considerations in developing a budget. And finally, using science and research to inform decision-making ensures that we make the best decisions in the most efficient way in addressing the issues that we face as an agency. The next slide has a pie chart, which just gives a visual picture of the dollar values by account and proportions. And of course, the Water and Related Resources account is by far the largest account. That covers West-wide programs, all the way from planning, design, construction, operation, maintenance, environmental requirements, all those various things that go into an annual budget request. So as you can see, Water and Related Resources predominates the pie chart here. The two smaller pie slices are for the two California programs, and then finally the policy administration at the 65 million that you see here. And then the final slide is a pie chart which breaks out the Water and Related Resources account into 5 program activities that are addressed in our budget justification document, which is on our reclamation budget website. So on the right-hand side are 3 program activities: water and energy management and development, land management and development, fish and wildlife management and development. Those 3 combined are something we call resource management and development. So it's that right side of the pie chart, a little less than half of the overall request. In congressional documents, the House, Senate, and conference report documents, it constitutes the first column of 2 columns under water and related resources in those reports. So that, again, that resource management is made up of those 3 program activities. On the left-hand side is facility operations and facility maintenance and rehabilitation, slightly over half of our budget request. And those are combined in those Congressional Appropriation Committee reports and called facility OM&R is the shorthand. And that makes up slightly over half of our budget. So that's a high-level overview, and I will stay on for any questions at the end, and appreciate the opportunity to present an overview of our budget and give it back to Rob. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. We will now receive an update on Reclamation's implementation plan for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And I'm privileged to introduce Acting Deputy Commissioner for Operations, Mr. Matt Masieri, and Deputy Director for Program and Budget, Ms. Beth Hughes-Brown.
Thanks very much, Rob, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you here today. As Rob mentioned, we'll walk through the next couple slides here. Beth and I will tag team back and forth on the different slides as we work our way toward the question and answer session of this briefing. So first slide here, Reclamation's strategic objectives in implementing the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. As you can see, increase of water reliability and resilience, supporting racial and economic equity, modernizing our infrastructure, and enhancing water conservation ecosystem. These are derived from the different statutory guidances that we have, as well as executive orders and presidential memoranda. Next couple slides, I'll hand it over to Beth Hughes Brown.
Hi there. So this slide is one of my favorites. It's about the Rural Water Program. It's a microcosm of so many things that are good about the BIL and the way we're implementing it. It's a lot of the principles of the way we're implementing it are inherent right here in this slide. For example, let's start with thanking everybody who is part of the stakeholders meeting who had something to do with getting this funding for our stakeholders. We're very grateful to all of you who have participated in that. This is a game changer, obviously. Second thing is it illustrates the differences between discretionary funding or appropriated funding and what we're getting from the BIL. If you look at the first column there, it has FY21 enacted amount. At the bottom of that, you see it's $8 million. That's great, but it's not going to make things happen quickly because this is such a large program with such high demand for the dollars to finish it. So 8 million, if we were to continue there, it would take a long time to complete these projects. If you go to the third from the last column, you're looking at $420 million, and that is the first year in which we have BIL funding to dedicate to this program. That's obviously a lot of money. And in the last column, you see this very high amount of money as well, not allocated yet to projects, but it's at the program level. Between those two amounts of money, that's a big change in what we are able to do in that rural water program. It's going to accelerate, therefore, the completion of these critical projects. And so that's a very big deal. At the end of the time that we have accelerated and completed these projects, people who have never had potable water in their homes, many of them will now have it. So it is transformative. It is making the world a better place for those people. And again, that's why we're so grateful. The other thing that this slide illustrates is because you see the amounts of money for the first 2 years of spending on the rural water project, a program, are 420 and 248 million. We are accelerating those, making them happen quickly because these are ongoing projects. We know what we're building, we know where it is, we know how we're building it, and we can use the money right away. We therefore have the capability to use the money right away. That is not the case for all of our programs. Many of our programs are brand new and we're still developing the criteria for how to roll them out. But this one was ready to go. So you'll see that we spent the money on this one very quickly. We allocated the money for this one very quickly. Next slide, please. The next slide tells exactly how we did allocate it out. We did not do it in a prorated way. We do have about 16 distinct programs in the BIL, and some of them are brand new. So the ones where we did have the money, did have the capability, we put more of the money right there to start them quickly. We didn't do it, based on a percentage across the board. So the way we did do it was where we had the near-term program capability, as illustrated by rural water, where the efficiency would include savings. If you have indexing, which is roughly equivalent to cost of living adjustments or inflation. If you have indexing and you take a long time to complete something, it's going to cost a lot more. If you get it completed in a shorter period of time, you're going to save a lot of money. And finally, whether that new program is ready for administration. So that's why we did our decisions the way we did. That's not going to change the total amount that goes to any program, but it does change how we rolled it out in this first and second years of implementation. Back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Beth. This next table is probably familiar to many of you that were in on our briefings that we did in December and January, or if you've looked at our BIL web pages. Basically just a summary table of the little dozen plus program areas that we got in the BIL and how we're distributing that funding. It's basically a mix of funding opportunities, internal formulation, or a hybrid of those. We get a little bit more into that in the coming slides. Basically, the main takeaway from this table is that what are we doing, how are we doing it, and when are we doing it? And the takeaway of it's a mix. Sometimes funding opportunities, sometimes internal formulation, sometimes a hybrid approach. We'll get into that a little bit more, but for now we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so Reclamation's BIL appropriations, as I just mentioned, break down into those three categories of internal formulation, external. This is the way it would look. This is how it would look graphically. About 2/3 of our entire BIL appropriation relies on some kind of application process. So I say that and we emphasize that to let folks know that A, the democratic process sort of collecting project proposals, but B, the time involved in posting those funding opportunities, collecting the applications, ranking those applications, and then moving into the financial assistance phase. On the next slide, we talk a little more about the rest of the program, where it's at now. So I mentioned that funding opportunities are sort of a big engine in how we're driving BIL forward. We've already, just since BIL's enactment, had these 7 funding opportunities open and close. So we've got that next box down, we've got 2 open right now, and still to come, we've got about 6 more in this year. Of particular emphasis, I want to flag items 5 and 6 on the right-hand side of the screen there. Small-scale water storage and aquatic ecosystem. Brand new programs in the BIL. Number 5, we got the small-scale program authorized and appropriated in the BIL. There are on our website now the guiding documents on how we will assess feasibility of small-scale water storage projects. And coming behind that will be the rest of the program design, the actual project funding criteria, and a notice of funding opportunity. That last one there, aquatic ecosystem, also a new program. That was put on the books in Public Law 116-260, which was authorized or enacted in December of 2020, and then huge amount of funding put into the BIL, which was, of course, enacted in November of 2021, about 11 months later. Next slide, please. Okay, this is back to Beth Hughes Brown, so take it away, Beth.
So what have we been doing since the beginning of the implementation of BIL? Some of you will have attended our early stakeholder briefings that we did. The first one was in December the 17th, and then I'm sorry, the 10th, and then the 17th, and then January 7th. We did them in stages, and so we did them for large groups. A lot of people learned a lot of things there. We did them the first ones were the easy programs that were ongoing. We already knew what we needed to know about those. And the other ones, as we rolled them out, we did the ones that were a little trickier later on. Then we went to, right after that, we opened our, oh, I'm sorry. Let me skip to the end just for a second there. Do you see the 422? That's where you are now. Congressional, Tribal, and Stakeholder Bill, BIL update briefings. So we did them then, we're doing them now, and we plan to keep on doing them as long as you folks find them useful. In between, we did a number of applications. The very first one for the Aging Infrastructure Program, again, a brand new program. It had been set up a year ago, but this is the first time we're using it. So we're learning a lot, and we've already had the application period open and close, and we're in the due diligence stage of reviewing all of the applications. We're very close to rolling them out. We got a great crop of applications, so we're very pleased with that. So the decisions on that should be coming out very soon, probably in the first week or so of May. We did the first spend plan. It had to happen 60 days after the enactment of the BIL. It did. And it is on our webpage, usbr.gov/BIL. So you can go there and take a look at that. It is at the program level. You'll notice that Matt said 12, I said 16. There are a couple of sub-programs there, but you can use either number, whichever one makes you happy. But at the program level, that's where that spend plan is to begin with. As we allocate them down to the project level, we are doing amendments. We call them addenda to the original spend plan as we roll them down to the project level. I'll get to that in just a second. Then we started doing funding opportunities. The first one was for recycling and desalination. In January, there were 3 days worth that the department did tribal consultations on the BIL, which were extraordinary. I've never been to one of them before. It was a learning opportunity and a very moving opportunity to hear from tribes on their perspectives on the BIL. Then soon thereafter, February, we did the allocation. We released the allocations. We had to work with BIA and the department on how the allocations of the Indian Water Rights Completion Fund would be allocated, and also the Reclamation Water Settlement Fund. And so that went out on February 22nd. Again, you can find that on our website. The funding opportunities soon thereafter for small-scale water efficiency projects. Then one of those 2 addenda that I mentioned, the first one was for dam safety, and you'll see another one, a couple items down for rural water. And those are also posted on our website. You can get that information. That brings the money that we had originally allocated at the program level down to the project level, where it is, of course, that we will spend them. And then you'll see a funding opportunity for drought resiliency. And then the spend plan. Another spend plan. Only 2.5 months after the first one, we had to do a second one. By law, we had to get it out at the same time we did our budget for FY23. And so we did our second BIL spend plan for FY 2023. And again, that is still at the program level. So we did a lot, and you'll notice I want to say one thing about the staff, because we have any number of program staff on this call. These are compressed schedules. They are accelerated schedules, and it's an amazing amount of work that they did in this compressed time. So we're patting ourselves on the back just a little bit here with congratulations to our colleagues. Back to the next slide, please. Key takeaways. The most important thing, everybody can read what it says on the right side, but please take a look at that picture. That is what is happening with BIL funding. You'll see that these are real projects on the ground, changing lives. This is one of the rural water projects, Rocky Boys. It's extraordinary. This is happening with the BIL funding. The BIL funding for FY22 and FY23 has now been allocated to all the BIL program areas. All of them are now getting funding. Next slide, please. Other major BIL allocations, program allocations, such as aging infrastructure, will be announced at the project level, probably the first week in May. Stay tuned. And it'll also happen throughout FY 2022 and in subsequent years. As soon as we have the information, we will share that information, put it on our website. We're all about the transparency. Next slide, please. Specific BIL-funded project allocations, such as rural water and dam safety, have already been announced, naming individual project allocations. And you guys got a sneak peek at that at one of the earlier slides for rural water, and we've done the same thing for dam safety. Next slide, please. Beginning in December 2021 and continuing today, in the first 6 months of BIL, we've published funding opportunities to allocate more than $500 million in BIL funding. If you notice that our regular budget is approximately, 1.2 for water and related resources billion, this is almost half, and we rolled it out that quickly. So again, kudos to our colleagues. This excludes the funding being allocated for non-competitive programs like rural water and dam safety. So we're moving quickly. We're moving as quickly as humanly possible. Again, just a little bit proud here. Next slide, please. Back to you, Matt.
So this next slide is just, it's not particularly scientific. It's just meant to give you a sense of the geographic scope of the current reclamation construction program. And this isn't everything. It's just the projects with greater than $20 million total cost. And we've got a legend there. This presentation will be posted on our website so you can scrutinize. I know it's kind of fine print, but we just put this up just to give you a sense of where money is going now. And many of these projects will have BIL funding plugged into them as we make these funding decisions. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide, also not super scientific. It's kind of a miniature cartoon of a Gantt chart. These are existing water smart programs that we expect to plug BIL funding into. Some of these programs have already had their FY22 BIL funding opportunities open and closed. Those first three there, for example, actually first four, have had their funding opportunity periods open and closed, and a few others coming up behind it there as you move from the orange into the blue. Small scale water efficiency, open still, drought resiliency, open still. The next funding, notice of funding opportunity or NOFO that you'll see from us with a BIL component will be the WEEG, Water and Energy Efficiency Grants. Those are familiar to a lot of you folks in the district, with the districts out there. Water and Energy Efficiency Grants, very popular part of the Water Smart portfolio. And then coming behind those will be another funding opportunity later this year for environmental water resources projects. Next slide, please. So these are new grant programs. That last slide was existing. These are new. The small storage program in BIL, new program. Multi-benefit projects, new aquatic ecosystem, new, not authorized in BIL, but funded in BIL. And then large-scale water recycling, new program, authorized and funded in BIL. The gray is indicative of us still working on the program design in advance of publishing some criteria. If you're in the green, that means we've already gotten some of the program criteria out. For small storage projects, for example, as authorized in the BIL, we have published the criteria that will be used to assess feasibility of those types of projects. So just a kind of a mini Gantt chart to give you a sense of where we are in the life cycle of these programs. Next slide, please. And then finally, this is the last use of this design here. Aging infrastructure account, as was mentioned, that's 3.2 billion of our total 8.3 BIL allocation. That was the first application period that we did. It started in mid-December, went through the end of January, and that those applications are being ranked now as we come up with the final project allocations that we expect to publish, as Beth mentioned, in May. Rural water projects a little further ahead. We had plugged in BIL funding to those in our 22 BIL rural water spend plan addendum that's been posted. So anyone who wants to know what will we be using BIL funding for in the rural water projects program area, that's known, that's public, that's on the web. Lastly, water storage and conveyance. That authority in the BIL working on that spend plan and expect to have that set of project funding proposals out in the weeks ahead. Next slide, please. This slide is just a general slide that gives a sense of where the Water Smart funded projects have gone to in the last 10 years, and it's overlaid on top of a drought map from earlier this month. As we all know, much of the West is in some form of severe to extreme drought, as tracked on the U.S. Drought Monitor, and this overlaid on top of that is where Water Smart allocations have gone to. Generally, that's where you see applicants, credible applications coming in, and you can see how densely we've been able to sort of paper the landscape with Water Smart funding. And that's a tribute to the really good proposals that have come from our contractor partners, water districts, entities with water and power delivery authority who submit Water Smart funding proposals. Next slide, please. Okay, so one question that Beth and I get a lot is, are you coordinating your BIL implementation with other federal efforts? Answer is definitely yes. There are a lot of different fora through which our leadership at the Bureau and the departmental level coordinate with their peers in the other natural resources agencies such as USDA, EPA, and the Army Corps and other entities that work on natural resources and water resources projects. There's the National Drought Resiliency Partnership, Interagency Working Group, but also we have groups and channels of communication pursuant to recent executive orders and presidential memoranda. And we also have the leadership team involved in many of those same groups. People that sit on our program management team for the BIL also participate in those above groups. So we try to sync up and coordinate to the greatest degree possible. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is my last slide, and I'll turn it back to Beth. One comment that I've heard sometimes is people say, when BIL funding arrives or when BIL funding happens. And I want to really leave you with a final thought that BIL is happening now. It's those funding opportunities that you saw us go through. It's those funding opportunities that are still to come. And it's the internal formulation, the announcements of project allocations that we're constantly putting out as we move through time. So just know that this program is very open and driven by the participation of you guys, our local partners who fill out those applications, who have those projects, and who benefit from the reclamation program and from your community's support for these federal funding opportunities. So thank you for that partnership, and thanks for being part of BIL with us. We look forward to going on this journey together. And with that, I'll hand it back to Beth.
So usually you lead with your headline. I'm going to end with our headline. Once in a generation. Once in a generation is an extraordinary phrase, meaning the changes that the BIL is allowing us, is facilitating for us to be able to play a part in making happen. So every successful project, every one that is chosen, every one that is completed, will also advance one or more of the priorities that the administration and Congress set forth. Fulfillment of these changes made possible by the BIL. These include support to underserved and disadvantaged populations, improved job opportunities for Americans, good jobs that focus on measurable outcomes for the American people, and continued progress on building resilient infrastructure. My, oh my, does that matter with a drought? That helps combat the crisis of climate change. So again, thank you so much for being a part in this of this with us. We're honored to work with you. I just want to say one word before I turn it over to my colleague, Rob, who is the head of public affairs. The work that we've been doing, we couldn't be doing without them. We've been making something happen with them a lot, and every quarter at least so far. So again, thank you, Rob. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Beth and Matt, and many thanks to both of you for your steady leadership throughout this process. At this time, we'll address your questions. As stated, please raise your hand using the hand icon at the top of the screen and state your name and affiliation when asking a question. The chat is open during this brief, and we also encourage you to submit your questions by sending an email to usbr.bil@usbr.gov. And we're committed to addressing as many questions as we can during this limited time today. And with that, let's go to your questions. Who do we have first, Peter?
Eric Saperstein, you can unmute your mic and turn your camera on and ask your question. Please share your affiliation also.
Thank you very much, Peter. Eric Saperstein, representing a number of different water agencies throughout California, including East Bay Municipal Utility District. Robert, or I don't know who, maybe Matt, OMB released their guidance on how to comply with the Build America, Buy America mandates, I believe earlier this week. And now it's up to the individual agencies to develop their program-specific guidance. Do you have any sense of when either USBR or the department might issue the agency-wide clarifications or procedures for Build America, Buy America?
Hi, Eric, good to see you. And yes, we're aware of that memo that came out on Monday, and we have started pouring through it. We actually have one of our subject matter experts from our acquisitions group, our mission support organization, or MSO, Heidi Morrow, on the phone here, and she can speak to that with more details. I'm going to hand it over to you, Heidi, if you wouldn't mind taking that question.
Of course, Eric, thank you very much for your question today. I appreciate it. We are working with the Department of Interior to develop the agency guidance, given that it was only issued at the beginning of this week. We don't have an estimated time for getting that done. However, I will say that we are required to fully implement it by May 14th. So I expect something here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So as soon as we get that, we will make sure to share it throughout Reclamation and share it through the stakeholder community. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Saperstein. Thank you.
Ian Lyle, you can unmute and turn your camera on. Go ahead and try now, Ian.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it, sir. First I wanted to say thank you for holding the session. And Eric actually stole my question, so I will just echo the importance of some clear guidance for our members for the National Water Resources Association, and the importance of having, where applicable, functional waivers if our members find issues where they're not able to access the required products made here in America, either due to supply chain issues or technology issues. So just, I guess it's more of a comment since Eric asked a great question, but thank you again for holding today's forum. We really appreciate all the work that you and the staff are doing to get the money out there. Also, I see Mr. Deputy Commissioner Brain is on the line, and we're just excited to work with him in this new role. So thanks to the team for all the work you guys are doing. And thanks to Eric for asking a question way better than I ever could have. I'll turn it over to others.
Thank you, Ian, and thanks for your continued partnership. It's great seeing you again.
Sure.
Jimmy Haig, please answer your question and share your affiliation. Thank you.
Sure, thanks. My name is Jimmy Haig. I'm with the Nature Conservancy. Quick comment just off the top, just want to commend everybody for Reclamation's implementation of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. It's been really efficient and transparent, I think, especially relative to the rest of the federal family. So I want to commend you on all of that. I was hoping to sneak in 2 questions. The second one is pretty short. But my first question is about endangered species programs on the Colorado River. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law gave some money to 3 or 4 of those programs. And the last time I checked, the spend plans said that there would be subsequent spend plans specifying how those specific dollars were going to be used. I was curious if you had any status update on when we might see those details, more at the project level. And then the second question would be, where can I go to take a look at that small scale storage project criteria for feasibility?
Take a crack at that, Jimmy. We can put the link to the small storage project criteria into a chat or email to you. We'll get that to you. It's on our website, but sometimes it takes a couple of clicks to get to. With respect to the Drought Conservation Program and Endangered Species Act program funding that was specific to the Colorado River in the BIL, we have been targeting this summer for the announcement of some of those specific projects. As you know, in the case of the DCP projects, very specific and very sort of crowdsourced project proposals for those DCP monies. And we know your organization tracks that closely. So we don't have an announcement on that today, but we expect in the summer to do so. I'd invite anyone else on the call from the region or from those program areas to supplement anything that I said. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to you, Rob and Peter.
Thank you, Matt. Peter, do we have any other questions? I see some hands raised there.
Will do. Leslie, you can unmute yourself and turn your camera on. Leslie?
James can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Leslie James with CREDA, Colorado River Energy Distributors Association. I'm not going to thank you as everyone did so eloquently, but thank you. A question that we have had, how do we or where do we find potential funding for mitigating some of the costs of that we're seeing as power customers in the Colorado River Storage Project? And what I'm looking for there, do we rely on reclamation staff to see if there are opportunities to offset some of the O&M costs, for instance, of your facilities? Is reclamation looking creatively at other drought mitigation opportunities within BIL that maybe weren't envisioned when the BIL categories were written. Opportunities, supplemental generation, where we aren't getting the hydropower that we have been getting. It's kind of a broad question, but I don't want us to miss an opportunity if there is something within any of these categories that could help mitigate some of the impacts that the tribal customers and our customers are seeing related to drought.
Carl, is that something you want to take? Because I really want to make sure we get a good answer for you. This is Beth. And so therefore I might ask you to send us an email so that we get a chance to dig into that, because that's a very complex question. Carl, or does someone else?
Do that.
I'm sorry?
I said I'd be glad to do that if you need me to, but yeah, I'm kind of interested. I hope I was not unduly vague here.
Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I would just say, Leslie, good to see you. There's a lot of different BIL programs, I think, that have potential for assisting in this way, but we could talk separately or respond to some specifics about what you had in mind and which of the BIL programs might be most applicable.
Okay, thank you. I'll send you an email, Carl. How about?
That sounds great.
Thank
you, Leslie. We appreciate your question and partnership there.
Kira Finkler,
Hi.
go ahead and answer your question.
Thank you so much. I'm with Trout Unlimited. Just want to say all the work you're all doing is extraordinary. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. And really appreciate these presentations. Just a quick question. My understanding is that the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law authorized ARPA funds to be used as non-federal match for projects. Does that authority extend to programs such as the WaterSmart grants programs? Thanks.
Hi, Kira. It's great to see you again. Yeah, we're very much aware of that provision and that new authority. What we've been determining so far is that we want to take a look at the case-by-case instances on that, just because the project proposals can be so variable in the many different WaterSmart criteria. But we're very aware of the language, and in general, we're interpreting it as flexibly as we possibly can. I know we have folks from the WaterSmart program on the phone. If they wanted to add or subtract anything to what I just said, I want to make sure that they have that opportunity, because oftentimes they've got a lot more detail than I do. Anyone from WaterSmart want to add or subtract to that? We're still on. Or the budget office.
I'm here, but I missed what type of funds the question was related to.
Basically, the provision in the BIL that allows the use of coronavirus recovery funds as a non-federal match. That's what it relates to. I said that we've been trying to interpret that on case-by-case basis as it comes up, but wanted to see if the WaterSmart office had anything better, more specific than that.
To my knowledge, it's an unresolved question, whether that funding can be used as a match for WaterSmart projects. Oh, but I think Carter might be on, so maybe he has more to add.
Go ahead, Carter.
Just a second. I need to allow him here. Just a second. Go for it, Carter. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, sorry about that. It is an unresolved issue, and it's something that we've actually been working with the Department of the Treasury on, related to their rule that they put out on the use of those COVID dollars. So hopefully something comes out soon. We kind of having conversations about whether they put out an FAQ related to it or whether the department puts something out. But Aubrey's exactly right. It's unresolved right now, but hopefully something soon.
Thank you so much. Super helpful. Thanks.
Thanks, Kira. Raquel Flinkler, you can unmute and turn your camera on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again for the great presentation. My name is Raquel Flinker. I'm with the Colorado River District. And a couple of quick questions. For the small scale water storage and aquatic ecosystem, would those be water smart opportunity, like grant opportunities as well? That's the first question. And then quickly, a second question is, my understanding is that most of the opportunities that have the external application process fall into Water Smart, which require design, projects that have a design a little bit further along, let's say 30 to 60%. And I'm curious to see if there's any funding opportunity that maybe can help some projects move to that stage.
Don't know how much longer we're going to have Avra for, so if it's okay, I'd like to see if Avra could respond to the Water Smart side of that question first, if we still have you, Avra.
Yes, I am here for a few more minutes. So thanks for the question. You're correct that most Water Smart projects do require a certain level of design. The Aquatic Ecosystems Restoration Program is not actually part of Water Smart, but and it's a program that's under development. It's a new program for us that we're working on. There is another new program that we're also working on called the Multi-Benefit Projects for restoration type projects with ecological benefits. And that authority does include authority to do design work. So that's a new avenue for us to provide some funding for doing that actual work of getting your restoration project to a level of design where you could then apply for implementation of that project. And the small scale storage is also not part of Water Smart. So I'll defer on that one. I hope that helped.
Carl, did you want to speak to the small scale water storage side of that question, Carl Stock? Oh, I'm sorry, Peter. I don't know if we have Carl's mic unmuted, but Carl Stock, I'll just buy some time for a sec, works in our Reclamation Law division where they're working on the program criteria for the small storage program that you asked about.
Yeah, and my apologies. We've got a small scale water efficiency program and a small storage program, so I was not quite clued into the question. Can you repeat the piece of the question that was about small water storage?
I think we may have lost her.
Okay, well, so just a reminder, we put I put in the chat the link to the feasibility requirements for small water storage programs. I'll add that we're expecting to post a notice of funding opportunity announcement for later this summer for actual funding for implementation. And if there are any questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you, Carl. And if Ms. Finkler, I think she is, I don't see her on the line, but maybe we'll reach out to her to make sure we answered her question thoroughly. See, we have another question here, Peter.
Bobby Hills, you can unmute and turn on your camera.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Bobby Hills. I work for the Nez Perce tribe in Idaho. My question is with regards to Water Smart, that typically requires a 50-50 cost share. We do some work with the Army Corps of Engineers who require a cost share, but recently they've been able to provide a waiver for the cost share due to the economic challenges in Indian country. Has the Bureau of Reclamation thought about looking at that same sort of waiver for tribes when it comes to the 50-50 cost share?
Take an initial crack at that. Good afternoon. Water Smart programs now have a mix of cost shares. Now some of them go up as high as 65% and down below that, but 50-50, you're right, is the general rule. I don't have an answer on your question. It is something that we've heard discussion of, but I'm not sure if that is resolved. Avra Morgan is in our Water Smart program, and I'll let Avra speak to the question.
Hi, yes, thank you for the question. We don't have a similar authority to issue a waiver under our Water Smart programs that the Corps apparently has. However, there are a couple programs that, as Matt mentioned, have different levels of cost share. And there are a few that actually don't require a cost share in certain circumstances. So for example, the Cooperative Watershed Management Program, which is a planning program for watershed restoration type projects, that doesn't require a non-federal cost share. So that's one area where there's no cost share required. There's also the Drought Contingency Planning Program, because it's under a different authority from some of our other Water Smart programs. In that program, you actually can ask for a waiver for cost share due to economic conditions. So that's another one. That's one of the few places where we do have the ability to issue a waiver. And then a couple of our new programs, which are environmentally focused, have the opportunity for up to 75% federal and 25% non-federal cost share. So we're seeing some new authorities that we have that at least ease the burden, but it's not across the board. It's kind of dependent on the authority that applies for the specific Water Smart program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby, for the question, and thank you, Albert, for your expertise. I think we have time for maybe one more question. Do we have any other questions, Peter?
Not at this time. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll go ahead and call on you.
Okay.
We have one question just came in. Midvale Irrigation District, please unmute yourself and turn your camera on.
As the $2 million limit on the Water Smart program, has that changed in this infrastructure law, or does it remain the same?
So just to quickly address that, in several of our Water Smart programs, we've been able to raise the maximum amount that you can request per project to $5 million. So you'll see that in the next funding opportunities for the water and energy efficiency grants, for the drought resiliency projects, and the environmental water resources projects. So having that additional funding under the BIL has enabled us to allow more funding to be requested per project above that 2 million that used to be our limit. So we're up to 5 million.
But not through aged infrastructure construction then?
No, that's not a Water Smart program. I can't speak to that one, so I'll defer to someone else on that.
Yeah, and I want to make sure I understand the question, but the initial reaction, there is not a specific limit at all on the aging infrastructure account and the funding that's available from that on a per project basis. The criteria speaks more to ensuring that the activity qualifies under the definition of extraordinary maintenance, but there's not a specific limitation on the amount of funding available per project under that program.
Okay, so back on that, you mentioned the XM extraordinary maintenance. Now, on grant funding, that's different than the XM loan, is that correct?
Correct. So the aging infrastructure account, XM funding, the reimbursability of that tracks with the authorized project cost allocation. So the reimbursability is the same as how the construction and O&M is treated in general.
Okay. But as far as grant funding is concerned, there is a $2 million limit on that.
Well, so as it relates to aging infrastructure account and XM funding, those are not done as grants. They're, reclamation would cover if there's a non-reimbursable share associated with public purposes on the project. Those would be covered by reclamation. If there's a reimbursable share, those would be fully reimbursable by the project beneficiaries. So I'm not sure if we're understanding exactly what program you might be talking about.
Yeah, so gentlemen from Midvale, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. Right now, there is a funding opportunity open for drought resiliency projects. That limit, if you look at that funding opportunity, per project limit of $5 million. That's an open funding opportunity right now. It used to be 2 million, it's now 5 million. In a couple of days, there will be another funding opportunity for the water and energy efficiency grants. That funding per project funding limit will be $5 million, not $2 million. So in answer to your question, yes, total funding allowed under Water Smart grants in some grant areas will be going up this year and already has. On the extraordinary maintenance, not a grant program, reimbursable funding, there is no per project dollar limit on extraordinary maintenance loans.
Very good. I think that answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the question, and thank you. We're going to conclude. We're almost out of time here, but want to thank everybody for their very insightful questions, and many thanks to all of our subject matter experts. If you do have additional questions, we encourage you to submit your questions by sending an email to usbr.bill@usbr.gov, and we'll work to address your questions. On behalf of the Bureau of Reclamation, thank you for attending today's information session. Updated information is always available at usbr.gov/bill, BIL, and it includes recordings of these information sessions as well. As mentioned throughout today's brief, we remain committed to transparency through the implementation of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and have conducted updates about the bill in every quarter of this fiscal year thus far. And we look forward to presenting another update this summer, but more to follow on that. Thank you for your partnership and thank you for your continued support. Please take care.